can you like wear like a Manchester United t-shirt and go for a Manchester City job?
Absolutely not. The only thing once we went into city. So I'm working with two biggest football clubs in the world, which is Manchester City and Manchester United.
Somebody was researching, said, ask Isha if she's the Durandar kind of character that Ranveer Singh plays. She works at Manchester City and then also goes and does things at Manchester United.
Look, I'm talking to somebody who was a Chelsea fan once. Come on, yeah.
I've grown up on English Premier League, yes, but once upon a time I was a Chelsea fan, so yes, I take that. One of India's silver medalists at throwball owes the success to illegal parking of buses.
We did not have play area. There was a bus parking area where school made an initiative to just let the school buses park on one side and then make us play, because they wanted us to grow and they wanted their kids to play, enjoy and participate.
A fascinating journey. So let's have some fun with this, Isha.
Yeah.
Few celebrities, tell me whether they'll be good attackers or good defenders. Ranveer Singh,
Attacker for sure.
please explain yourself.
He's not a kind of person who will stay back. He has this energy, his aura, which goes into the game, and he'll be fun. I would, wow, that would be fun watching.
Durandar attacker, huh?
The attacker, absolutely. I shifted from Mulund, which is in Mumbai, to Goregaon, and I shifted my school as well. So from there, I got to know about throw ball. I played handball, I played javelin, I played discus throw, I played shot put. I have played multiple sports, but while playing throw ball, I felt I want to, achieve something in this, and that would make me going in life.
Indian sport is more than just, those highlight moments, primetime TV, floodlights, and, cricket and those Olympic moments. Indian sport has had a rich history. And to give you some context about it, understand that under the Sports Authority of India, there are 57 recognized federations. So there are 57 sporting disciplines, including cricket and football, which basically operate and have the same objective: to make their sports popular, to make their sports, commercially viable, to make their sport the talk of the town. And it's a competitive space where 57 sports exist. I don't think we realize that. Under the Indian Olympic Charter itself, there are about 37, 38 sports, and that comes from the International Olympic Charter. I mean, in India also. And, because the Olympic Charter is basically dynamic, so the sports keep changing. Like, so this year, they may just, you must have heard the news about them wanting to drop something like a wrestling and wanting to introduce something like a rugby. So all these sporting federations compete amongst themselves to basically get mass recognition. Now, my guest today is a very interesting person. And I'm extremely happy because she covers the entire gamut of what our ethos of this channel inner athlete is. She's an international athlete. She's played the game for India at the highest level. Second, she's played multiple sporting disciplines that ranges from netball, javelin, touch rugby. Very, very surprising. And it's a fascinating journey. And she's made sports a motto of her life. So she's now, after playing the sport competitively, she now plans to pursue it from the management side. So she's pursuing her master's in sports management from Manchester. Very interesting part-time work, work experience that she's gaining in England, and we'll talk about it soon. And during our research, we also found out that she's a certified personal trainer. So, for our recreational athletes, This is a free session. We are going to get a lot of knowledge as to how you can enhance your recreational athletic abilities. So please allow me to welcome Isha Shah, India's throwball player. She's represented India at throwball, has won a silver medal in the Malaysian Games, has been a 7-time national player for Maharashtra, or is it Bombay?
So it's Mumbai and Maharashtra both.
Both.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So Isha, welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this. And you've had a fascinating journey, as I mentioned. So do you want to tell me like how throwball started for you?
Firstly, thank you so much for this warm introduction, and I am very pleased to be here. And throwball, as you asked, that how it started. So it started from not a very young age. Like people start playing from 6-year old or 7-year old. I did not know throwball then, but I shifted from Mulund, which is in Mumbai, to Goregaon, and I shifted my school as well. So from there, I got to know about throwball. I played handball, I played javelin, I played discus throw, I played shot put. I played. I was playing throwball as well, and there. Uh, there are some sports where you just be on the field and realize that this is what you want to do.
Yes.
I have played multiple sports, but while playing throwball, I felt I want to,
Yeah.
achieve something in this,
Yeah.
and that would make me going in life. So that is what I started my throwball journey from school, and I play throwball till date. So there is no going back from throwball, and uh, my school introduced me to throwball. So there are levels. So the first level is DSO, which is district level sports, and then there is states, which is called as nationals.
Nationals.
Correct. So and then there is playing for India.
Hmm.
So I established my journey in all of them. So I started from DSO. We won DSOs, and then I played 7 nationals, and then I went for playing international. So that was my journey in throwball, and I coach now as well. I coach women's team, and I'm going into that sector as well. Of there is a player who's been playing, and then you shift to from playing to coaching side of the game.
I get it. I get it. I get it. This is fascinating. Means I was just seeing the kind of sports you played. I did not know Goregaon was a hub for touch rugby. You know, I've done my sports management from Australia, and it took me 4 months to realize the difference between rugby union and rugby league. So I'm pretty fascinated. I didn't know Goregaon has sports, touch rugby. But it's fascinating. I give credit. So, which is a school? Like, I'd really like to compliment them. They've introduced so many sports to.
Yeah, it was funny for me as well, and it is now funny as well, because we normally don't know what is our potential. And we won that as
Yes.
well. We won third place in DSO, and to be honest, the school's name is Yashodham High School, and it gave us a boost. We did not have a play area. There was a bus parking area where school made an initiative to just let the school buses park on one side and then make us play, because they wanted us to grow, and they wanted their kids to play, enjoy, and participate in inter-school competitions as well.
So the genesis of one of India's silver medalists at throwball
Yeah.
was the success to illegal parking of buses. So fascinating journey, fascinating journey. And I think even for a lot of fans, and please don't take it the other way, and they'll feel throwball is it a recreational sport? Like, I first tried to analyze what the sport is, and I've known what the sport is, and I said it must be a sister sport of volleyball. It's got elements of netball, it's got elements of handball, and I know that that's an unfair way to you know to describe a sport. Every sport has its own intrinsic values and intrinsic qualities, which define that sport. And I feel throwball is right up there because it's been existing since decades. I'll throw a few facts to you that our research team has thrown up, and I'm sure you know about it. But tell me if these things are true about your sport. All right, it's got an international federation,
Mm-hmm.
the sport.
Yeah.
Okay, which has about 50 participant nations
Absolutely.
who play the sport, at the competitive level.
Yeah.
Asia is the big hub. In that, South Asia, all right. It's growing in Africa too, and I presume that this must be because easy access to the sport, less cost, and which makes it a very ideal sport for a country like India, or a lot of our developing countries, right? I think the greatest, like, football is called a beautiful game because all you need is basically just a football, right? You don't need too many equipments, and that's a area that I find about pro ball. So if there are entrepreneurs in our show who are looking at pro ball, these are qualities that they should look out for. Another thing, so the various countries who participate, tell me if it's true or not. India is the historical giant of this sport.
Yeah.
Sri Lanka is the rising star. Surprise, surprise. Pakistan is a top contender. I don't know how our research has come up. Fantastic. Bangladesh is a strong competition. So I see it as a, vibrant SARC games product. Thailand, Malaysia are the emerging hubs of this sport. So that makes it a very good sport. I think your federation should pull up their socks and should
Mhm.
compete with uh, all the other sporting disciplines too. And India is a market which is I call it the virgin market because it's not as fixed as say Europe or America. We are still a young nation where new sporting disciplines are picking up. Something like pickleball, right? Today it must be more popular than tennis in this country. So did you know these things about your own sport, or
I knew
Yeah.
some of them. Let's not lie. We don't know everything.
yeah.
But yes, I knew some of them, and they're right. Like Malaysia is doing great in terms of putting efforts to organize those international events, and it takes a lot,
Hmm.
to be honest, to organize these events. It takes a lot of commercial background as well, and it takes a lot of human resource management, coordinating with countries and letting them play here. Yes, so yes, Malaysia is doing that.
But
And
pan India also it's played well. Like whenever you played the nationals, it was well represented. Most of the states had teams.
oh, they were amazing. So we have around 26 states participating in
Oh,
nationals
that's good.
right now, and we are emerging. The
That makes it a pan India sport.
absolutely. And people like states like Gujarat,
Yeah.
Andhra Pradesh and Haryana, they're leading now.
Hmm.
Uh, There's no going back.
Hmm.
People like them. If you see them playing,
Hmm.
you will not think it as only a recreational sport.
Hmm.
You will know that it's not only a
No,
recreational
no, no.
sport
I understand.
for sure.
I was watching a few videos yesterday, and that's about every sport. Like it could be a recreational sport at one level. Say tomorrow I start playing throw ball. Maybe it's an easy game to pick up.
Absolutely.
But as you build your skills, once you take it to the competitive level, there is technique involved, there is
Yes.
practice involved. It is as tough as cricket or football. I agree with you completely. As you raise your levels, every sport has different levels, right? So the recreational part of it, I want to touch with you because I look out for entrepreneurs too, and I want to explore opportunities for entrepreneurs in sport too. That is about it. And so Asia is the emerging hub. But I saw a few videos. Let's just, for our viewers, let's just try and understand the sport also a little bit. And I'm sorry if I keep comparing it with volleyball, because it's just, and many a times I've been proved wrong as a sports analyst. But I just believe that more people know about volleyball than they know about and I feel that there are similarities. The sport must have emerged from one from the other, right? uh so it's nine-a-side.
Mm-hmm.
uh I just want you to explain to me how the sport is.
So I'll start from the players, like
Yeah.
the substitutes.
Yes.
So there is 9-a-side.
Yeah.
And there are 3 substitutes allowed.
All right.
So it's 12.
Yeah.
In each team.
All right.
And then we go ahead and there are a lot of rules
Yeah, yeah.
and regulations
Yeah.
involved. But the basic, if I have to explain about throw ball, is there's a net in between and there are 9 players each side.
It's right.
And then you throw the ball. And then you catch the ball. There are different rules in catching as well. You can't catch it over your head, and you can't fumble while catching, and you can't like there are a lot of different.
I get the rules.
And then
I wanted you to touch on the basics, the basic parameter, the basic rules of the game. So it's a similar kind of a setup to volleyball, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Not a similar kind of a setup, because
Okay.
there is a different net size as well.
I get it.
The different,
I get it. But
yeah.
the dimensions are different. I know your game has a larger court as compared to, you have 9 players, and but it's 25 points a set, and you
Yes.
play basically best of 3 sets.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Absolutely.
And I've seen that at certain places they also say best of 5 sets also. So is it like for the championship or something, or how does that work?
Yes, so in DSOs, like in school games,
Yeah.
proper inter-school competitions,
Yes.
they play 15 for each set, 15 points for each
15
set,
points for each set.
and then best of 5 sets.
All right. And when you take it to 25, then it becomes best of 3. Is that
Yes,
this is that how?
that is how it's played.
Okay.
It
Excellent.
depends on the organization which is organizing, and then but the inter-school competitions have to do 15
Yeah.
points and then 5 sets.
So while I'll take up the recreational part of the sport, I want to know, tell our recreational athletes that basically in volleyball you hit the ball, right? You hit the ball. Here you throw the ball. Right? If you can analyze, if you are a recreational athlete, it's far easier, and you'll enjoy playing. You'll pick up the sport faster, throw ball, as compared to say volleyball. So if you are a recreational athlete, which I want to be, then I think my choice of sport will be throw ball as compared to say volleyball, and that should make Isha happy.
Yeah.
All right, Isha. So this is about the sport, and would you like to tell us something about the federation? Are you happy with how it functions? Because I know there are challenges. Like many a times we criticize, but they also have a path. They have to also compete with other sporting disciplines. But do you think it's a sport today that is possible for somebody to pick up professionally, or is there a potential for it, or you see it more as a recreational sport at the moment?
So, to pick it professionally, so I'll tell you a story
Yeah.
behind this. So then I wanted to play for India and I got selected. My major concern about it was that it was not funded by the government. And this is what we are facing a lot in terms of a lot of other sports rather than, cricket or football. Now, kabaddi has been up, and like sports like them, badminton is also,
Yes.
up, because recently we doing good in Olympics. So, but then people don't look at sports like throw ball in terms of commercial background, and then it's heartbreaking, because the first thing an athlete has to think about should be the performance, not the finances behind them. And yeah, but like when we went to Malaysia to play, we had to fund ourselves.
It's a
Which
challenge for the
was a challenge.
federations too, but
Absolutely.
I presume that's why you have sports managers and people. Like if I was working on your sport, there are a few strategies that I would use. One, I would recreationally focus a lot of time on the recreational part of the sport, and to tell our viewers, because I remember you telling me when we were speaking about this first, when I wanted to have you over as a guest. Uh, you told me that recreationally in the was it the area of Goregaon again or Mulund, where you are seeing recreational competitions every week mushrooming up and growing by the day. Was it where was it?
It's all over Mumbai. It's all over Mumbai. Like there are different places. It's Bandra. It's Goregaon as well. You know, clubs like Goregaon Sports Club, and like a lot of them are getting this sport up because people go there. There's a volleyball court as well there. So there is nothing more they want. They just have to buy a throw ball. You know, in football there is we have to buy shoes and then shin studs and then shin guards. We don't need that in throw ball. We just need a throw ball.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And we are good to go. And touching to the part where you said that you know, it's growing, it's growing. I think every month or once in a month or like 2 months, there is a tournament going on for women's, and it's growing massive.
Hmm. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense because, and I think then that's what the federation should do. The federation should basically pick on this point of it being a great recreational sport, and because and you told me a lot of women play the sport, and I wanted to touch one more topic and remind me about it. But these recreational leagues, majority of them are women leagues, right?
All of them are women leagues.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
But that's a great way, right? So if these are like women in their 20s, 30s who've already started families, if the mom plays, then the child also plays. I think your federation should pick on that point and should actually put a lot of emphasis on the recreational side of the sport. I think it's a great recreational sport. I was working on badminton,
Mhm.
and I feel there too, the recreational
Aspect.
side of.
Yeah.
See, because what I mean to say by this is like cricket, season ball cricket, right? So for say the last 15, 20 years, you have not played cricket. You played it in school or college or something like
Right.
that. And then at the age of 30, 35, you've achieved your things in life. And now this whole tribe of, these recreational sports athletes have come up. Very, very difficult at that age to pick up something like cricket. Like season ball cricket, I mean to say.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's very important that you find the right sports, and that's where these federations should play. That's the advantage that your sport has over cricket, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I feel that this is the now I talk as a sports manager, and this is what I've been thinking for years now, that so in school competitions
Hmm.
there are boys playing,
Yes.
there are seniors playing as well.
Hmm.
But when we talk about men,
Hmm.
there is no such competition, or because we are in India, okay, and I'm not sure about the world playing men's throw ball or not, but India is definitely not playing men's throw ball because recreationally, right?
Recreationally, I know.
Right.
Competitively, it's a concurrent
It's
tournament.
played,
Yes.
absolutely, but not recreationally. But I feel it's much better than, not better. Let's not put it this way, but you can definitely, if you play volleyball,
Hmm.
you can play throw ball, and it's not about just throwing or catching. It's much more.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn, get into it.
Yes.
Invest your time, efforts, energy. Get to know a new sport,
Hmm.
and then you'll get to know it's not just, um, women's game.
Yes. Absolutely. I thought it was a women's game till you corrected me and you said that, and then I realized that internationally, at all competitive levels, they run it concurrently, right? Like in badminton or volleyball also, where basically the men's women's tournament are conducted
Together.
simultaneously, and that was an eye opener for me because, and you know what happens? That happens to certain sporting disciplines. Now that's why soccer, though the next World Cup is going to be held in America, and it's the largest market, and Messi plays there. He does not only play with Rahul Gandhi and Tiger Shroff for our people, but you know, uh, uh, I realized that in America, because they are so very good at women's soccer, the sport was perceived to be a women's sport. And I think that's something that even happens with throw ball, in India.
Yes. I don't think. So I'll tell you about this. Men's. It's better to. I feel this is. We should let men's play this, but I feel some sports are fine being a women's sport.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. See, because look at women's cricket today. It's going to carve its own identity. Look at tennis. Tennis, men's tennis has had some of the greatest players coming across. Like, at one point of time, because of the vintage we are in, I've been following tennis since John McEnroe, Newcomb. These are all the naughty boys of tennis.
Yeah.
Those days it was not like they're not the good boys as Nadal, Federer are.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that consistently the men's tennis has this high quality, the women's tennis has created its own identity, and has its own market presence. If not, sometimes it's more popular than even men's tennis. They feel that men's tennis is too powerful and women's tennis is more artistry. Same thing is happening with cricket. It's a fascinating story, but I think yes, sport will survive. And so what? Throw ball, the women may show the men the path of success.
Absolutely, because investing your time in
Yeah.
creating a new
Yeah.
thing, let's invest because it's growing. So let's take whatever we have and make the most of it instead of introducing a new thing
Yeah.
which we don't know would work or not. But we can do it 5 years down the line, but not right now.
Yeah.
For sure.
And one free idea I'd like to give your federation also is, what you should do is, cricketers, IPL is coming up. Most of these cricketers play some kind of sport. They're either playing football or something to warm up, right?
Right.
They should tie up with one of these IPL teams and get them to play throw ball. It will also be easier on their limbs, because half of these guys, they've realized that football is a very, it's a very risk-prone sport. Rohit Sharma's test career was delayed by a couple of years because he injured himself in Nagpur playing football beforehand. So I think that way, and then if one of the cricketers he makes an investment in your sport, because this is the age of startup culture, right? And before we get into the sports management side of things, I hope, Isha, you too, you are just starting off your career. I, have some very interesting points about you and what you're doing in Manchester. Sometimes I think you're a spy in the football area. I'm going to write to Sir Alex Ferguson asking to please investigate on this girl. And before we get into that segment, I hope that one day what Jai Shah is doing to cricket, maybe Isha Shah will one day come into administration of throw ball in India.
Absolutely.
So let's take a break and let's regroup, and start our segment on sports management education.
Absolutely.
Looking forward?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Isha. So as we regroup again, and I said we'll talk about the sports management education, topic very dear to me. I thought there were a few things more about the sport of throw ball that we'd like to throw light upon. And, we're having a discussion, Isha and me, offline. And we thought, let's take that up. Isha, like talking about the sport, and so it's 9-a-side, right?
Right.
And so are these 9 positions? There's a tactical significance to every position, right?
Absolutely. So I would love to explain it to you in a very generic format,
Yeah.
which is attackers and defenders.
Yeah.
So what attackers do is they smash the ball whenever, not every ball, but whenever they get an opportunity of, hitting and getting a point, or maybe I hit a ball to you, and then what if I'm an attacker and I hit the ball to you, what you will do is you just throw the ball on the other hand, and which gives opportunity to our attackers to attack again. So there are some technicalities to this, but there are two types of players, which is attackers and defenders, to answer your question.
So an attacking shot would be something like a smash, which people will try to correlate with volleyball also. So it's extremely similar. In
Right.
volleyball, you hit, here you throw, but it's
Absolutely.
a smash.
Yes.
And the defenders are supposed to be good at catching.
Right.
Am I correct?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
They, basically, we can rely on them.
But one interesting facet I like about your sport is
Mhm.
the fact that you have the rotation after every point. So that means everyone has to be good at everything.
Absolutely. So in normal matches, what we do is we have to rotate. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are 9 positions and there are 3 lines.
Correct.
3, 6, and 9.
Yeah.
Okay. So everybody has to go on every position. What we do is, in difficult situations or in good matches, what we do is we just swap the players after the whistle is blown. So there's a person who does service.
Yeah.
So after that service is
Yeah.
done, we can rotate the players. We can swap the players. So if I'm on the 3rd position, 1, 2, 3, and you're on the 6th position,
Yes.
you're not an attacker. You're a defender. So what you can do is, we'll tell that before the point we can switch. So you'll go ahead and I'll come behind because I'm an attacker. So we can swap between the matches as well after the whistle is blown. That is.
So that's the tactical part of the game.
Right.
So it's not a simple game, people, of just throwing a ball across. As you build skills, as with any other sport, you'll understand various technical facets about the sport, which will make it very interesting to play and to compete. And I feel that every sport, and though it's an old existing sport recreationally, but I think if you want to commercially exploit it, I think, and my producers told me, don't always keep giving this gyan about your sports management products, but I'm little hard at taking advice, and out of bad habit, I tell you, you guys at Throwball should do a celebrity league. You understand a celebrity league? So basically, it's an easy game to pick up. So you get actors and cricketers, okay, and you get them to play an exhibition tournament. See how your game grows up exponentially.
That should be great. That's
Interested?
That's a very great idea, I feel. And not even actors or cricketers, everybody, like influencers are in trend nowadays.
Yes.
And this is they can play on a basic level as well,
Yeah.
because it's a recreation sport. They'll be able to, even if they are not into sports, they'll be able to.
So let's have some fun with this, Isha.
Yeah.
You are the technical expert. I'm the caller. Okay. Few celebrities. Tell me whether they'll be good attackers or good defenders. Ranveer Singh.
Attacker for sure.
Please explain yourself.
He is not a kind of person who will, stay back. He has this energy, his aura, which goes into the game, and he'll be fun. I would, wow. That would be fun watching.
Yeah. Dhurandhar attacker, huh?
Dhurandhar attacker, absolutely.
Okay. Excellent. Govinda?
Tricky one, but yeah, defender. He would just stay back and then he would dance and make everybody laugh.
Yeah, probably he'll catch it well, right?
Yeah.
With his dance moves.
Yeah.
You need footwork, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Deepika Padukone?
Oh.
Smasher.
No, let's just keep her as a substitute. Because people will be, just see her and they will.
Yeah, but that reminds me, why is it not played as a mixed sport?
Right.
At the competitive level, I mean.
I have never thought about this, but you know, I don't know.
Yeah, the federation should work at it.
Should work. Yeah, I think it's a great potential.
Yeah.
Now you
Because see, you have
are-
similarities to badminton, you have similarities to volleyball, and I think a mixed format will add some kind of new dynamics to the sport, right? Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a story where so what we do is when we practice for nationals, we play as mixed team. It's not girls or boys, or we play because there are some skills which we need to upscale, and there are some skills which boys need to upscale, and we have our own things going on, and we teach each other. Nobody is superior or inferior at that point, and whatever. So there is this great thing in Haryana where the whatever the boys has to do, the girls has to do that as well. So if there is rain, okay, and the ground is muddy, boys and girls both have to pull their socks up and then go in the ground and take that water out. Or we do here in Mumbai, we don't do that. There are boys who wants to show their chivalry. No, I will bring the bottle of water. No, why? We are capable. I'll go and bring a bottle of water. What's wrong in that? So that type of things here. I still remember, as I said, I mentioned Haryana. It is the same thing happening with us, and boys are like, no, it's fine. Even the coaches, because they think they want to it's not in their minds. I'm sure they don't want us to stress on things, but this is not how it should work. These are the very basic things I'm talking about, small things which can make a big difference.
So if you are a recreational athlete and whatever we've spoken to you about, the sport of throwball, I think it makes a very, very apt sport for somebody to pick up as a recreational sport. And Isha's done some work around this. We'll talk to you when we go to the segment of recreational sport. And now let me take you to the topic of sports management education. And I'm somebody who did it 27 years back. So, times were different then. I'm extremely fascinated by the fact that, you've been, and it must be something to do with your individual skills too. You are doing 5 part-time jobs along with your sports management program.
Yes,
correct?
Absolutely.
And at the end of it, like, I have something very important for the city of Manchester to know about you. But before that, just tell me about the jobs that you're doing.
So I'm working with two biggest football clubs in the world, which is Manchester City and Manchester United. And I'm doing hospitality there. And I'm working with Co-op Arena, which is in Manchester. And so basically they organize concerts and boxing matches and things like that. Fourth thing I'm doing is I'm working with Progressive Sports, like it's a sports coaching company where I'm working as a coach. And the fifth, I'm working as there's a football club in Manchester. I'm working as a sports operations manager there. So I look at social media, I look at back end work, finances. It's a small club. So I look at everything possible.
Yeah, just somebody who was researching asked me, he said, ask Isha if she's the Durandar kind of character that Ranveer Singh plays. She works at Manchester City and then also goes and does things at Manchester United.
Look, I'm talking to somebody who was a Chelsea fan once. Come on, yeah.
I've grown up on English Premier League. Now I feel that, we should do something in indigenous. Yes, but once upon a time I was a Chelsea fan. So, yes, I take that. But I don't mind. So, but can you wear a Manchester United t-shirt and go for a Manchester City job?
Absolutely not. The only thing once we went into City, they said no United costumes allowed. And once I went to United, the only instruction was no city costumes allowed.
Yeah.
No jerseys, nothing at all, not even the color.
But good for you, yeah, Isha. You dabbled both the worlds,
Yes.
in Manchester. Yeah, excellent. That's great. So, coming to your main course of sports management, you've also done an undergraduate program in sports management in India, right? Along with playing the sport, you took the sports management program in India,
Right.
and now you're doing your masters.
Right.
You find a difference in the education patterns both in England and India?
Both have their own benefits, pros and cons. But when I went to Manchester, the only thought was international exposure, like to know business part of the international world. I know India's business part because I've been working for like 5 years now in India, and I have that experience. I have worked across 30 events. In that, I have managed 2 international events, which is
Excellent.
IHFF and World Youth Chess Championship. These were the 2 events, so I know what's going on in India. But I wanted to explore my potential being out there, and regarding the study system, is the same kind of things we learn here in India. We learn about Indian things, like what's going on here, not international things, but in there we learn about the whole world, what is going on. There are professors who has that knowledge, who has worked internationally across all football clubs or any other big clubs, and now they are here teaching us. I think sports industry or any industry has a major role in networking.
Hmm.
It is all about networking.
Yes, like they say about management, right? So even there's a whole debate. One big podcaster, Nikhil Kamath, himself a school dropout, has said that probably management education is irrelevant, right, in today's time. And but I think one area where management education will still survive is the networking area, which he also has admitted to. So I think networking is, yeah, it's a smart choice. Like I know that you identified it well, because I met a few sports management students. Like even with my own personal case, I finished my course in 2000. I came back. I met a lot of the sports management company. Those times were a little different. So I was just meeting the broadcasters. Eventually, I ended up working for Z in the sports division. But even I was limited in my horizon because I wanted to cover my costs, right? It's prohibitive when you study abroad. And so I was focusing.
About it.
So I was focusing on the broadcasting side of things. That has opened up a little bit. But I find a very positive thing when I'm speaking to you, because, it took me 7 years actually. I went back to doing something because I already had a management degree. So I could go back to doing something which I was doing before I did my sports management program. And it took me 7 years before, Z came up with that audacious plan of launching the Indian Cricket League. And that's when, the job opportunities came. And that's when I came back into sports management. I am so grateful. The product didn't succeed, but it helped me, make a career in sports. And I find that problem with a lot of students who are coming back with international degrees, because they approach me, right? And they don't have the jobs and this thing. And that's where I say that look at entrepreneurship and look at this thing. What I wanted to touch upon is, like, everyone doesn't need to do a master's, right, Isha? Like, they can also come up with short-term courses. Like, say, suppose you're a cricketer, right? You played the Ranji Trophy, you played domestic cricket, etc. There are so many sports management colleges in India also. They can basically curate and create courses which will be beneficial to a cricketer. Now, you are academically inclined, you are doing an entire master's program, but maybe that cricketer does not have to do entire. He could just focus on the event management side of things, right? One could focus on basically the coaching side of things. One could probably, he may have the aptitude for marketing and could do like a short-term course in marketing. And that's where I think these sports management colleges also should adapt their courses, right? You don't need to do like 2 years master's program or a 1 year master's program to basically absorb things out of the program. What do you think? You're a contemporary student of sports management. You see the sports education sector more closely than I do.
There.
What are your thoughts?
So currently, like there are because I'm in the sports industry and I've done my bachelor's and I'm doing my master's in sports. There are a lot of people, coming to me asking, because right now, let's admit it, India is a growing sports nation. We are investing, the government is investing a lot of money on that, and a lot of players are emerging. They have developed interests in that. So parents are very concerned of what they want to pursue ahead in life. If they're playing, they should do a professional degree like CA, CFA, CPA, or any other financial degree, or any other fashion degree, or just go do sports management degree. So I think that the short term courses which you're talking about should be implemented as soon as possible, because that would give a chance to a lot of people to explore this field. If they like it, they do it for 3-4 months, and then if they like it further and they want to pursue it, they know what they're getting into.
Correct.
Like, for example, I did not know what I was getting into in the bachelor's degree I did.
In the bachelor's, yeah.
Correct. I did not know. I still remember I was going to colleges, different colleges, and exploring, but I was a player. So I just go to their office and ask, what sports do you play?
Yeah.
What do you offer in sports? And then I remember I went to 3 colleges that day, and the 4th one was near my house, and I was talking to the office person, and they said, "Nahi, we don't do any sports here," and they just shushed me off. And that pissed me so much. I went out of that office and I was sitting there for like 2 minutes, and luckily that's how I found. So there was this guy who just came up to me and said, "Are you fine?" I was like, "Yes." And then he told me that, I heard what was the conversation between you two, and I would like to offer you this course. This is what we are planning to start. And, this is what we are doing. Would you be interested? And it was about sports management degree. So that's how I knew about it. And a lot of people I was scared because it was their first year and there were only 3 students there.
Once you are already an international athlete, right?
Absolutely.
You're not like somebody like me.
Yeah, no, I was playing nationals at that time. So international came in 2022, but before that, this happened. And
a lot of people don't understand sports management, and I'd like to tell people that. So what happens is I work in cricket.
Yeah.
I work in cricket also because we are not. I'll admit, somebody like me who's done the hard yards. We can't be the purest, and I hope that inner athlete, that purest of an athlete remains. Every sport, like I said in our introduction, every sport deserves its chance. Now it's different. Cricket is today at top, tomorrow, but the other sports should have that environment and should have that leadership team to take it right up to where they want to be. And so people ask me, the confusion that happens is they say, "Oh, you're doing sports management." So they say, "So what did you play? Cricket, like." So I said I'd struggle to even get into my class team. Like, it's a little different story from yours. You are an international athlete. I was a university level football player, but that has nothing to do with cricket. And I keep telling them that working in the field of sports management is very different from, basically your pursuits as an athlete. These are two separate things. And that's why these short-term courses, I feel, are important, because what it will do is, like somebody from the field of advertising may just want to come and like do a sports marketing program, right? And you know how unique a sports marketing product is to, general marketing, right? And so I hope that happens.
so sports marketing is the different ball game altogether.
Yeah.
It's very different from marketing in general to doing a niche field, going on to a niche field like sports marketing. That's how, yeah, because I've been doing it from like 2 years now, for different clubs.
Correct.
For my, so I was and am an entrepreneur as well. I had my own small academy, which was named as Aim Fit Academy.
We'll go to that when we go into the recreational listing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but hold on to that thought.
Uh-huh.
But tell me certain more things, the trends that you're finding in the sports management education thing. What's happening? Well, do you want to like appraise our viewers, and some of whom may be like aspirants who want to get into the sports management, and everything is not glamorous, right? Ticketing
Yes.
side of it, the event side of it, uh, is 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 a hard grind, not for everybody, right?
Not for everybody, not for everybody. I'll tell you one story of this. So it has worked for me
Hmm.
because I have been on the field as well as off the field.
Hmm.
You know, two aspects. On the field, I've been an athlete myself the whole life, and now I'm in the management side. So I know what athletes want. I know what the viewers want. I know what the sponsorship people who have invested in us wants. I know what everybody needs at this point of time because I've been there and I've done that. So that has been working for me, and that is the reason I'm doing 5 part times.
No, excellent.
That's what um,
And all of them are not glamorous. So when you're working in the hospitality sector, it's not that you're being a Jerry Maguire and doing billion-dollar contracts for Ronaldo and Messi. Like it's a completely different ball game. Or the event side of sport, when you're like managing an event, match day life, very different, right?
right. So if anything goes wrong, anything can go wrong
Hmm.
at any point of time because there are thousands of people working in that area. Hundreds of people uh, viewing that on top, like the people who have been invested in that, they have been viewing, and any small mishap can create a big issue. We don't really. I'll tell you a small example. I organized an event, and that day it was not showing that it will rain. Okay, and it rained.
Hmm.
What to do now? Nothing can be done. So what we did is we just did an announcement that, is it fine? It's fun. It was cricket again. But then it was fun. So we just announced that, is everybody okay with playing, like this? And they said yes. And then that's how we thought that we would take this ahead, because waiting would create one more day of staying on that turf, and then a lot of people working with us has to stay back because it was not here, it was in Gujarat, it was in Surat. So we have to think before we take any step ahead, and that's what we
Very
did. We have to find a way.
Yeah. And one point that you made, that
Mm.
you've been an athlete, and that's why when you are on the management side of it, you know what an athlete means. I'll tell you this very funny story that happened in the. I won't take names, but the industry knows where this happened. Okay, this is the starting of the IPL years. Okay, and one team was not doing very well, and they were losing matches. So this team is owned by a corporate. So the corporate managers, some of them overzealous guys, went into the dressing room. Sacrosanct space. As sports managers, we are taught never enter there, give them their space, right?
Mm.
But these gentlemen thought, we own the players, we buy the players, so let's give gyan to the players. So one general manager thunders. He says, my boss gives me a sales target every month, and I put in 8 hours every day for it.
Mhm.
And when I don't achieve that, I put in 12 hours and achieve the target. So I tell you, boys, when you play the sport, if you are practicing 5 hours, start practicing 8 hours. And the cricketers were just shell shocked. One rustic North Haryana cricketers, and I won't use the expletives that he used. साला इतना ट्रेनिंग करेंगे सो अगले दिन मैच के लिए खड़े कैसे होंगे? And that's where sports management comes, the education part of it comes into the picture. It's slowly changing in the IPL, but it is not completely also, there's a lot of interference still that happens. Doesn't happen with EPL. You never saw. Can I take Roman Abramovich? His name is not there. But he never went into the dressing room, right? It was Jose Mourinho. He's the boss. He does everything. I can't even imagine uh, Sir Alex Ferguson being interrupted by, the owners and, talking to the players directly. So those sacrosanct spaces, those things happen once, you know, the market matures, the product matures, and more importantly, the people who are working there mature and also, gain education in that line. So that point that you made, that's why I wanted to bring up this, funny incident, because you said as an athlete, I worked there, I know what an athlete needs, and that's why you are shining example of, people who should pursue sports management. And what we're discussing offline, Isha, like we're talking about all these short-term courses, right? So you want to go with the line of Tendulkar and Kohli, or should I? I think you should.
Please go ahead with your thought. So go ahead with it.
Yeah, but you agreed with it wholly, right? So if we hear that in the Indian market, there are a lot of foreign institutes who are going to set up base in India, campuses in India. They are all exposed to the area of sports management and a vibrant university level sports culture. That's a topic that I would take up separately. But I feel one great marketing campaign that they can do is they can basically show Virat Kohli and Tendulkar going to college to do a short-term course, some soft course. You could do like a corporate communications course. You could do an advertising course or something like that. But then, like these are courses that can help an athlete make a career after his, playing days are over.
Absolutely.
And that's where I think sports management education needs to, and this is about sports management education. Isha, we are going to bring you back again after you complete your course and, your experience. I'm sure you'll have new things to add. And my team found out that the enterprising Isha is also a certified personal fitness trainer.
Yeah, I am. And I'll tell you a story behind that. So why I did that course is I was a player all my life, right? And my coach used to tell me that, do this, a simple example, do a bicep curl. Okay. And I don't know. I did not know until I did that course that why he told me to do a bicep curl. I wanted to know that what I'm doing with my body should be my responsibility. I should listen to the coach for sure, but I should know what's going on. So that is why I did this personal training course.
Interesting.
And
I was doing a video, and it's one of my inferences that after cricket, if there's one area of sports management which is very, very stable in terms of a business, it is fitness, gyms and fitness. Don't you think so? So I'm sure that will also hold you in good stead after you complete your sports management education. As we end this segment featuring the sports management education, I'm so happy today to have had Isha here because she gives a contemporary perspective to it. The Indian education system is going to change soon, and we are going to have sports more integrated into the curriculums of colleges. We are going to have foreign institutes come into the country, and they are already exposed to sports management education, and this is going to be fascinating. And if you are a student of sports management or aspiring to be one, I just like the great hustle that Isha does, right? She's doing 5 jobs, which gives her so much more perspective, so much more experience when she actually goes out into the field of sports management education. This is a great, great thing. Isha, thank you so much for doing this again. I'm telling this to you again. But I also wanted to, in our research, we found out that there's another fascinating aspect about you. You're a certified personal fitness trainer. Tell us more about this.
Absolutely. So I started my fitness journey when I was young. But then, I have been an athlete all my life. And at certain point, I realized that I don't know why I am doing certain exercises or why I am moving this part of my body and what will this give me, like what will be the output of this. So I found a need of doing a personal training course where it gives me a perspective. Example, why am I doing this bicep curl? What are the muscles which are working in that when I'm doing this? Why is that move required for my body? you know every other thing which I learned gave me a perspective and gave me a vision for my body. And it's not only how my body looks but how my body works is what I learned in this. And I feel everybody in this world should do this course. It's not only for athletes or coaches, it's for everybody, and everybody should know how their body works. So, yeah, everybody, please do any personal training course where you learn about your body or muscles. You will get to know so many things and you will develop your own perspective on that. It's very important. Yeah.
I agree with you, Isha, because I am no certificate. My team basically wants to check my other certificates also, but that's a wicket team here. But I feel that yes, if you are into sports, you are into any kind of recreational activity that involves your physical attributes, then yes, you have to build knowledge about it. And what you say is very, very true. So now that because you're here, and I understand that we have to give a disclaimer out because, means you must be having clients, but you have to see a client because every individual differs, culture, genetics, all these factors come into play when you basically develop a program for them as a personal trainer. But there are a few trends happening nowadays, right? We see in the newspapers every day, Japanese walking better than 10,000 steps. So I'm going to ask you a few of these trends that are happening, and I want to know your views on it, your personal views. I don't want you to. I know when we had this conversation offline, you were saying that you were a little skeptical because, unless you've seen a person, more details about a person, you would never recommend an exercise form or, particular exercise regime. So I'm going to give you a few of these pointers, few of these trends that are happening, and tell us what your views are. Okay, and I'll tell you even what I have explored. As a recreational somebody who actively participates in sports, despite my vintage and my age. But let's take this. So the first thing is Japanese walking versus a 10,000 step daily routine. What is more effective?
So, as you mentioned earlier, it is not for a particular person, or, this is in general what
Yeah.
I think is beneficial.
Yeah.
And I will definitely go for the Japanese training.
Yeah.
I have 2 points for that.
Yeah.
It's so the calories you burn in 10,000 steps,
Hmm.
it takes you 60 to 90 minutes for a person who will walk. It takes 60 to 90 minutes for a person to complete
Hmm.
that 10,000 steps. Instead, you can save that 30 minutes of your time and do this Japanese training in just 30 minutes,
Hmm.
where you have to do 3 minutes brisk walk or, fast walking, and 3 minutes normal walking. And that will give you, so there is something called as VO2 max.
Yes.
It is for your cardiac, like heart health, and it is more beneficial when take out go max on your strength, like endurance. If you would want to work on your endurance, it is the best thing you can do right now as a normal person, you who wants to start their journey and save time, because as we all know, we have time constraints
Hmm.
in every field. Like nobody is um, if you can do more efficient work in 30 minutes, why do you want to spend 60 minutes on that? Simple.
I agree. So time constraints that most people who are not actually athletes but who want to just do it as part of the fitness regime, it's definitely more. There are fascinating studies coming out in the HIIT segment. Like this would come into the HIIT segment, right?
Right.
For people who don't know, Japanese training is where basically you walk at full speed for about 3-4 minutes, and you relax. You walk for about another 5 minutes, and you do this about in 3-4 intervals of fast bursts of walking, and then you do like a slow run, a slow walk, and basically you complete that in about 30 minutes. They've said that you end up burning more calories, and we'll put it in our show notes. There are two people that I follow on. One is Jeff Cavalier, who is a New York Mets trainer, and who runs this very, very popular channel called Athlene X. And that's where I first picked it up. And I follow somebody called Dr. Peter Attia, who runs a podcast called Drive, and he runs a longevity program, which is very popular in America. And we'll put it in our show notes so that our viewers can go and explore the same subject, the same concepts further. And what you said, and on one of Dr. Peter Attia's guests, and she's a physical therapist herself, and again I'll put it up in the show notes. I fail to recollect her name, and she was saying that women, if they inculcate a VO2 max in their fitness regime, and that reduces mortality in women over 40 by almost 80 to 90%. So that is fascinating. And these are studies, right? So people will have to go and explore this themselves. But do you have like a theory on VO2 max, maximum once or twice a week, right? You can't be doing the sprinting every day. Japanese walking, of course, yes. But VO2 max is something that once or twice a week?
It depends, like on
If
individual.
you're an
but
athlete, it's a different
yes, it's a different thing. If you're a sprinter, that's a different thing. You have to do it daily.
Yes.
You have to practice. So it depends on individual. But yeah, for a like medium paced, individual where he or she wants to get into sports and get physically fit, get more endurance. Yes, twice or thrice a week maximum is
Yeah.
must. Yeah.
But guys, go and explore this subject yourselves. But it's fascinating. It's one of the latest effective trends that has been found, and that's where leads me to my second question for you. I used to be, what happens is I was a footballer, right? Played it at school, college level. Played it for a little more years, and I couldn't get about 10-12 guys together to basically play sport, right? It became difficult. Recreational sport had still not picked up in India. So I had to pick up some kind of a physical exercise, which was a solitary kind of an exercise. So I picked up running, long distance running. I also stay some portions of my life in Goa. So I'm blessed with a beach outside. So I kind of, started doing this long distance running. And then some of these fitness trainers that I follow, they all say that long distance running is not great. They in fact say it's unless you are an athlete where endurance, you need to build your endurance, your stamina, your requirements are different. That's where you do it. But otherwise, they say for general health, the risk factors of injuring yourself as you age is far more with long distance running, and they find it pretty useless. And they in fact say that go back to something like sprinting and jumping. So what I did after many, many years is I stopped doing my 4-kilometer runs, which I was doing about 3-4 times a week. And I picked it up from Jeff Cavalier's, one of his videos. So I do this 5-6 interval runs, sprints, and I jump the boxes. And they said that will create longevity because, this is something came naturally to us as young adults. And once we grow up, we don't do it. We do long distance running. But do you have some thoughts on this?
I have a question for you actually. Do you prefer running outside the gym or in the gym, As you mentioned, you were from Goa, and then have you experienced being in the gym running and then being on
On a
playground?
treadmill?
What do you yes, correct. So what do you prefer?
No, I'd like the natural run because for a long period of time, I was also proponent of bare feet running, but it's not practical everywhere, right? You can't. How can I do it on a Bombay road? I can do it on a Goa beach. Not every time, also, not if there's a party after 31st, there are going to be so many beer bottles. It's not going to help. But I've used the Vibram shoes. I like the concept of, the zero drop from heel to toe.
Right.
I like, it's a concept, right? Even and I, because we picked up a concept. So it's basically, it says that you land on the ball of your feet rather than your heel, and that creates less impact on your knees.
Please.
And but I just I've given up on long distance running because all these trainers, reputed people say that it's almost useless.
I think the point you made was, the reason just you said that you left running because if it would impact your knees. And I think you made a good point saying that, you can do it barefoot as well.
Yes.
And that would create less impact and less risk on your knees. And I would agree to the fact that it's a great thing. Like everybody should take this point ahead and just explore, try it once, if how it feels when you go barefoot running, not go on the Mumbai streets for sure, but go to a secluded place where you can there is no stones, there are no stones, there are no vehicles, and there is no risk of you getting injured or getting something on your leg.
Yeah.
Hurting yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, continuing with the same topic, this bare feet running and, cushion shoes, right? The cushion shoes was all started by Nike and all in the 70s. Uh, you are a far younger generation than me. You've always seen cushion shoes.
Come on, yeah,
No,
you're young.
Yes, thank you. But what I meant to say was, till the 70s, a lot of people don't realize that, the canvas shoes that you wore in school was basically the shoes that you basically wore even for sport. It is much later that you had the cushion shoes. Actually, Nike and Adidas were the first guys to basically start this concept of cushion shoes. Do you have uh, a theory on cushion shoes versus, shoes which are minimal, which are called minimalistic shoes, or which are minimal cushioning?
We have actually it as you rightly said that it impacts, and it is true.
Yeah.
Like I have experienced it myself.
Hmm.
So I would recommend like even if you can't go bare feet running, you wear the cushion shoes for sure, not the ones you mentioned, the canvas ones, because it will not lead you anywhere, and it will just give you pain. And there have been people who are researching on that. It's still going on.
Yes.
We don't have a particular you know
Yeah,
study.
I understand. And it also depends on what your requirements are, right? If you are a marathon athlete, then you need the cushioning, right? It helps you
Absolutely.
in your competition.
You're faster.
You're faster. Your stride is bigger.
Correct. And
So-
it covers the area as well.
True.
So
But you train people, right? So do you find people who actually equip themselves with this knowledge? Of course, the social media, like, it has its own ills, but it gives you so much of knowledge, right? Even I acquired so much of it. But do you find people have a more informed view about this?
no, I don't think so. Even because you don't know what is right and what is wrong
Yeah.
unless you read about it. Videos, anybody can make any videos, and for this, like the people who are older than 30s or 40s, they nowadays they're scrolling, they have, even everybody of us believe in the videos we see.
Yeah.
And most of the people don't know what they're saying because they haven't researched about it. They just want to make a video about it and want to make it go viral. So I don't think uh, anybody knows and researches about these little
Yes.
facts which can impact their daily lives.
So as we conclude this fitness section, Isha, as you rightly said, you don't want to give specifics because even with your clients, unless you meet them, unless you see them, uh, you understand details. You don't give specific recommendations, right? Every person is different. Every person is unique. But to just conclude for our audience here, I'd like to say, when I asked you about Japanese walking versus the 10,000 steps, you said Japanese walking you prefer. That's because time constraints that people have, especially recreational fitness trainers, and for them, you get a better output with lesser time. So your thumbs up is for Japanese walking. Sprinting versus long distance, you have not taken a stance on it, but you did say that sprinting is a good form of exercise. VO2 max is great for cardiovascular health. As far as barefoot running versus cushioned running, you said it depends on people's choice in the sense of what their requirements are, what their objectives are, right? If you are a recreational trainer who's just looking for his cardiovascular training, then barefoot running, provided he's got the right space. Yeah, so the luxury of space, like somebody in Bombay can't go out on the open road and do a barefoot running. He'll come back injured, right? So you have to be practical about it. Cushioning is great if only it is, somebody who's taking part in a competitive fitness program like a marathon or something. There you have definite advantages in your stride going up. So that's excellent. We covered all this. And while we broke for coffee, the entire team said that I stopped you at the proposed throw ball celebrity league.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We were on Deepika Padukone.
Deepika Padukone. Why did you keep her on the substitute bench?
Oh, I love how she will be there, and then her support. I have seen her in the award shows, how she cheers up Ranveer Singh as he's as you mentioned him earlier,
Yeah.
that
He's your ace smasher, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I want her to cheer him up
All right.
for now, and then we can obviously substitute, like bring her in. And
So tell me, if it's a match between film stars and versus the cricketers, okay? So you've got Ranveer Singh already there. We had Govinda there to distract the opposition. If for nothing else, who else do you see playing? Amir Khan?
Amir Khan would be, I think defender.
Defender.
Yeah.
Good choice. Yeah. Shah Rukh?
Shah Rukh is a king. We can't comment on him. Yeah. He's a
Substitute?
king. Yeah, no, we can't. He can be a referee. He's a king. So
I hope we are not taking Aryan Khan. I have opinions on his latest production, but okay. I don't want to digress into that. Okay. Hrithik Roshan?
oh, I love him. Like, he's a Greek god, right? So I let him
Attacker?
be by my side.
No, but where? Attacker?
No, nothing.
Okay.
He'll be by my
I'll
side.
tell you where you are. You have to make a choice. I'll ask you exactly where your tough decision comes in, okay? So you've got cricketers, and say it's a mixed sport. So let's talk about some of the actresses you want there.
I would love Disha Patani, as I have seen
Ah.
videos, and she's very interesting.
She's pretty much a fitness. Sorry, my age, I've not known too much, but she's somebody who's heavily into fitness, right?
Yes,
Okay.
because of
So Tiger Shroff, what is the Tiger Shroff relation here? Girlfriend, boyfriend? No. So he'll also be there in this team, no? Okay, fair enough. We don't want to go, but so both of them will be somewhere in your middle flank. Okay, actors done. Other side, you have to have a good opposition team. Virat Kohli?
Virat Kohli, Abhishek.
Which Abhishek? Acha, the new one. Yes, young kid. Abhishek Sharma. Sorry.
He's in trend, yeah. Come on, you can't forget him.
He's just a T20 cricketer, no? That's why I didn't know him. Okay. No, I'm sorry. No. Completely unwarranted. I didn't want to say that. Okay. Some of the vintage guys, Hardik Pandya, Yuvraj Singh, Harbhajan Singh, Sachin Tendulkar?
No, yeah, let's not.
No.
Sachin Tendulkar, let him.
He'll be the referee.
Yeah, no, he'll be.
How many referees you want, by the way? 3, no?
Four.
You guys have 4
Lion
episodes.
fans as well. So
Okay, nice.
fair enough.
Fair enough. So, okay, now the difficult question for you.
Yeah.
All right. Given a choice, which team would you coach? The actors or the cricketers? That's the longest pause I've seen you take in the entire. We've talked sports management education, we've talked sports trends, but this is the longest pause you've taken. Think.
I think cricketers, because
Cricketers?
everybody's dream
Oh,
is to coach them, and I will coach them. So
yeah. For all the gushing you did about Ranveer Singh and Hrithik Roshan, your loyalty lies to sports.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
All right.
it would be a dream come
Great
true.
match, right? It'll do great things for the game of throwball if you also give it serious thought.
Yes.
Would you recommend this to your throwball federation president?
I would
Yes.
definitely like have a chat with him
Yeah.
on this, and whatever we
Yeah.
you know
And
I
create an
mentioned.
IP. You are also an entrepreneur in your own way. Tell me about your entrepreneurial journey. You were also telling me about the entrepreneurial activity you undertook in your own housing society.
Right. So it was just because, I believe that I have potential to grow, and sports in India has that potential to grow. I believe that, while I'm working for somebody else, I have to work for myself as well. So I started my own academy named as Aim Fit Academy. And you won't believe, but I started it in like 500 rupees. People say you need a lot of money to start your own business. That's not true. I took one SIM card for 250 rupees, and I just took, a soft drink for all the kids who will be coming down and all the adults who will be coming down. And it was just 500 bucks. And what I did is, I I had a word with my like the housing society secretary, and I took permission that Sunday 8 a.m. I'll just let my like the boys. So I started skipping. I had a thought of starting skipping because it's one of the best exercises for fat loss, for even for athletes as well. All of them do skippings, and it looks very cool when you know different styles of skippings. And when I explored, there are more than 100 different styles of skipping which a human can do, and I've seen that. So it was very fascinating, and I thought I would start something on that. So I just told him that, 3 boys will come and they will start skipping, and just put it on the notice board. And they have put it on the notice board, and there is a speaker. There's this, uh, song going on, and those 3 boys are doing skipping and dancing with the skipping rope. So it was so amazing that everybody came down. Like there was an amphitheater there, so everybody came down. And then I still remember that we made a 72-year-old young women do skippings. So
Wow.
yeah, and like 25 people enrolled, starting from the age of 6 till 43. Everybody was there
So your
doing
first
same
business
things.
venture in sport, you made money, Isha.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
just 500 rupees.
So excellent. That's what I like. That's the spirit of sport, right? And we have to be innovative, right? You can't just think about the IPL. You just can't think about, the big leagues. There's a lot of other opportunities in the area of sport. And I'm so glad that I met somebody like you who's doing so many various things in sport. I did not expect this. I just thought I'm meeting somebody who's a contemporary sports management student, but I see an entrepreneur in you. I see you with great hustle as you are pursuing a sports management degree. You're an international athlete. Let's not forget that. And so, would you like any other thing in the area of sport that you'd like to talk about? You like offline, we were talking about mental health, and yeah.
Right. So I believe where I am right now is because of sports. I have seen failures, I have seen success, and nothing could ever break me. That feeling of continuous failure till you succeed is the best thing you can ever give to your child, or to yourself, or to your loved ones around. So I would just recommend for everybody to just go down, meet new people, because nowadays we all know that uh, be it anybody, we are all facing something, you know, some kind of depression or social anxiety, or you know, you don't have to talk. It's not necessary for you to talk. You can just go down and play.
Yes,
Correct. So
I agree with you. Sport builds character,
absolutely.
and that's why I feel that in the larger societal good, sport has an important role to play. Not just the commerce of sport, but it has this intangible benefits to it. You are also cautioning some of our young boys here about certain fitness trends, right? Which you feel are not, you know, very conducive to the spirit of sport and health.
I would like to speak about the food habits first,
Yeah.
because uh, now everything is so cheap and so like, we know companies who brings food to our doorstep,
Mm.
and it's miserable because we don't know what we are consuming in any way. Even if we eat anything outside, we just go down and we get food. We went for a drive, we ate ice cream, those kind of habits, and late night eating habits, staying up late. And one more thing I would like to address in this: please focus on your sleeping habits. Please don't stay awake late nights, and please get up early in the morning so you get your time. You get time to think, you get 24 hours, stable. Your life will be stable. Trust me, just sleep on time and wake up on time. Your half of the problems will go away.
So you are a believer in this circadian rhythm thing.
I Even on the days I can't sleep 8 hours, I sleep 8 hours. If I have to wake up at 8 in the morning, I make sure I go to bed at 11:30 so I can wake up at 8 and complete my 8 hours of sleep. My family tells me that you sleep a lot. I was like, no, that is not a lot. That is how you are supposed to sleep. And that keeps me active all day. I'm not tired at any point of time,
Excellent.
on any day, you know. Please, guys, sleep on time and wake up on time.
So Isha, I've got more out of it than what I expected. I have, I and I think my viewers also have learned completely a new thing about throw ball. As a sports analyst, as a professional, I'm always looking out for sporting disciplines. And as we discussed, and in the lighter note, we also created a celebrity league for your sport. But your sport is a great sport. It has existed over the years. It has the potential to grow as big as any of the other sports that it competes with or which it resembles, like say a volleyball. And there are great potential for it to be a league sport. There is a great potential for it to be an Olympic sport, which we will probably take on another day, because we are exhausted now. We've done this for over 4 5 hours now. um I understood some certain fitness trends with you. It was an eye opener as to how it spoke about sports management education, and what you and I both feel most sports management colleges should, refurbish their courses, should recurate their courses for the needs of even sportsmen, so that people from different walks of life can take up the subject of sports management as an educational alternative. And fitness trends, of course. And you rightly gave the disclaimer that unless you meet a person, every individual is different. And but of course, we spoke on certain things like the latest trends. I like your hustle. I meet a lot of young sports management individuals, and I've not been too enthused. I see, you know their struggles, and I wish not that that continues. It happened during my time. But I see a great hustle in you personally, and you're a great inspiration for people managing who want to get into sports management. Just imagine, ladies and gents, pursues a master's degree in sports management in Manchester, and at the same time, she's managed to hustle, and hustle is not a bad word. 5 jobs, which is going to, make her so much more complete as a sports manager when she actually gets into the field.
Sorry to cut you.
Yeah.
I have a distinction as well
Excellent. Sorry if
in
I
my
did not bring
studies.
it.
Yeah.
So
so
sports
it's not
characters.
just yeah, it's
Excellent.
not just working. It's working on my academics as well. So
Yeah.
I have a distinction as well.
I also had a distinction wrong back. You know when? First in sixth standard. After that, I achieved it only when I did my sports management program. Sorry, this is not important. It's not about me. It's about you, Isha Shah. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Please start playing throwball as a professional sport as well as a recreational sport. And when you start your journey, don't forget to tag them, the inner athlete. Thank you.
Thank you, Isha. That was Isha Shah. You know, she defines what the future of Indian sport will be, what the future of Indian sport business will be. Yeah, so look out for her. We'll tag her public profiles. Please share it with us so that the team can put it up in the show notes. Thank you again and all the very, very best. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Till we meet next. Bye.